Don't wait to enable new Outlook today. There are some benefits. Yes, it is different from the classic. And for some of the power users that you may, get a little frustrated, or maybe a little challenging because some of the features are not there. But if you are new to Outlook, here's an opportunity to use it just based on the number of hands or through the reactions, if you can let me know how many people are familiar with New Outlook. Okay, very good. So I wanted just to, formally congratulate Kansas City. I was surprised how many people were going to show up today since their Super Bowl was really great last night, down to the last 3 seconds of the game. So congratulations to your city. And a little bit of information about me. I started my company 2 years ago, wanted to focus on New Outlook. I worked for a corporate company for over 24 years and decided that, hey, I wanted to start my own training company. And I knew that Outlook 2016 and 2019 is going to actually be unsupported by Microsoft in 2025. And I said, people are going to have, trouble with that transitioning from classic to new Outlook. And I wanted to start preparing training material. I am an MVP since September of 2023, just last year. I also have a YouTube channel, Track Creation for E, and I have a playlist dedicated to New Outlook. So I'm going to talk about 5 reasons to enable New Outlook today, and depending on how much time, I won't show all the features that I'm going to share with you, but I will do a few. So reason number 1, Microsoft strategy and the timeline. So how do you get ready? So what Microsoft shared with us in September of 2023, they have 3 applications today, right? They have the Mail Calendar app, which is normally the free accounts. All new devices will have New Outlook. It started in January 2024. They have removed the app from Google Extension and Microsoft Store. So for existing consumers, you will still have the toggle to go back to the classic until December 2024. Now, with the web version, it was launched in 2018. It offers many of the features that from the classic, but there are some are missing. And then you have the classic desktop version, which was released in 1997 after they had acquired, hotmail.com. And I'm surprised that I see a lot of folks still with the Hotmail email address, right? That's over 20 something years, right? What Microsoft wants to do is have the consistency of one Outlook. So new Outlook for Windows will be the Outlook. Microsoft hasn't said exactly when, and we'll talk about that a little bit on the next slide, but it has a new look and feel. It's scalable, it's flexible, and you can customize it to fit your work style, regardless if it's personal, work, and school. So think about it from Microsoft perspective. Now, if something is broken or they need a fix, they don't have to have 3 different teams to go fix it. They want to have one consistent look and feel through all the different platforms. So let's talk about timelines. So Microsoft shared this slide back in September 2023. They first was giving users the ability to opt into New Outlook. They had 3 stages: the beta users, the preview users. Right now we are in the production stage. And what they had shared was back in September, they were at the halfway point then. So a quarter has passed. So let's move that marker a little bit. I didn't want to move it, but nevertheless, you can move it a little bit before they go into the disruptive change phase, right? And what does that look like for work and school accounts? So again, you will come in your office one day, you're going to turn on your computer and you're already going to be in new Outlook. And so you're going to have your beta stage, preview, and production. What they did say is you will get a notice about 12 months ahead before they actually, you won't have that option to flip back to the classic version. So make note of that. But what's really important is if you enable it now and start using it, Microsoft want to address any gaps that you may have. And so they want your feedback. So give Microsoft feedback as you see a missing feature or if it's working different. And that's important. Microsoft had said they would not, and they were very careful with their words. They did not want to commit to a date. They want to make sure, again, that they have, made sure that all the gaps has been addressed before they even tell you a concrete date and give users the ability to share the information. So again, one day, it's coming soon that new Outlook will be the Outlook. So reason number two, the benefits of being an early adopter. So what does that look like? So this is one of my favorite curves when I start training in SharePoint, back in 2024, I came across the Everett Rogers user adoption curve, and it has 5 categories for users, adopting new applications or product or services. And I want to see where you rank on the curve for new Outlook. So show of hands as I go through this. So the first category is, are you part of the 16% known as the innovators or the gurus or the early adopters and experts that actually, has new Outlook enabled? These folks will not have any issues when Microsoft finally say that, this is the application for you to use. How many feel that they are in this bracket? Show of hands. I see one. Okay, I see a few. See a few. All right. In the next group, there's 34% who, will wait until they kind of, see other people using it. They're actually in the break room and people are talking about some of the benefits, and now they're curious and they'll start to begin to dabble with it and go on back and forth to classic. How many folks feel that they are in this group? Okay, I see a few hands. And then you have the third group, the fourth group. On the downside of this curve, these are the folks, who will wait towards the end before they start to using it. And then you have the folks that is on the bottom of this curve. They're going to wait to the very last hour until IT come and force them, to actually start using this application, or that the toggle is gone and they can't go back. So think about, why do you want to be at least on the first 3 of this curve and not on the bottom of the curve? And these are some of the reasons why. Influence change. You can give Microsoft feedback, which will help you simplify your collaborations, communications, and workflow. You can't just tell Microsoft, keep Outlook as is. When you give feedback, make sure you share, how does this impact you? Or does it impact the whole entire company on some of your workflows? And on my YouTube channel and tech community, I see so many people ranting versus actually giving positive, constructive feedback. You can influence change. Invest time in learning the application. New Outlook has a lot of new features. The layout is different. It looks very modern. And don't take it for granted that you will learn this, quickly, or that it is a piece of cake. You may be a classic user like me, which I start using Outlook from day one. My brain is on autopilot and I know what to do in my sleep. So you do have to retrain your brain a little bit. Sometimes hear people say, well, I don't have time to learn it, but I want to say respectfully, you may waste more time not using the right features to improve your productivity. So that leads me to the next one. You're going to retain information better if you enable it now. So now you know that you have like a year or so before Microsoft. I want to make sure I want to say Microsoft have not announced when, new Outlook will be the Outlook, but you have a year or so to start using it now and learning in bite sizes, right? So instead of, think about back in school, we cramming information 1 hour before our final exam, and that is 27 chapters. We don't do that. So let's not do that with Outlook as well. Learn in bite sizes so you can retain information better. Share your knowledge. You have an opportunity to be your company's champion by helping others. You can actually build a reputation. And then at the end of the year, when it's time to do performance review, you can share, the impact that you had to the company by onboarding folks with New Outlook. And you might get a financial gain or some type of perks for sharing your knowledge with others. And then work efficiently. We are in a new technology era, and Microsoft is rolling out features and applications to support how we work today. Think about the classic, again, was created like 20 something years ago. Yes, it's still functional, but now we're going to have better tools to help us work the way we work today. Okay, let's talk about reasons 3 through 5. Are you overwhelmed with your emails? On average, a person may receive 120 to 127 emails daily. They spend about 2 to 5 minutes per message. That can be a lot of hours, 15 hours per week. Think about this. You go on vacation. So you guys just got back on vacation. You're on vacation. A lot of times we block 2 to 3 hours just to catch up on our emails, right? So here's my next question for you. What do you do with your messages when you come back? Like, what do you do with your message handling? And I'll turn my chat on, see if anything comes up. What do we do with our messages?
Right before I left on vacation, I created a rule to just shunt the automated messages from Azure DevOps into its own folder, and I'll just deal with those later.
Mhm.
That was probably a third of my messages when I got back this morning.
I see flag and set rules. So what do we do? This is what we do regularly. We review, we respond, and we retain our messages. So I have created track creation for E. We have created a concept called accelerate after inbox management. And so let me walk you through this a little bit. So with review, you want to automate filing to effectively review. You want to automate those emails. I saw people saying setting rules. You want to move things out of your inbox so you can focus on what's important right now. Respond. You want to act, follow up, task to effectively respond to your messages in a timely manner. right? Again, we had just said that it takes like 2 minutes for some of these messages. And then there might be some messages that we need to create tasks and reminders for. What are some of those tools that would help us with that in New Outlook? And then retain, archive files to easily retain your information. So IAC, we try to, we are like email hoarders. We want to keep all of these messages. I'm going to talk about, how to archive your files. And today we now use set retention policies, and I'll talk about that a little bit as well. Because we don't need to keep everything. We have, how can we move things out of our inbox, let's say 6 months or after a year? So I'm going to talk you through some of these features. And then like I said, I will do a demo on some of these features at the end. But under automate filing to effectively review, there's focus and others, suite rules, there's inbox rules, and then how to block your safe senders, block or identify safe senders. So let me just walk you through some of these features. So I think a lot of folks already know about and using the focus and other tab. You can train your emails to move to the other tab that's less significant, right? Because all of our emails are important, but you can move some less significant emails to the other tab. Now, some people love this feature or they want no part of it. Again, it's because they don't want to retrain their brain and their workflow to know that, yes, this is all still in your inbox, but they are separated into tabs. Sweep rules. This is my favorite because I can actually use predefined rules to actually move messages out of my inbox to a folder that I choose. Keep in mind, there are some folks, some users was very intimidated with the rules feature in the classic version and just stayed away from it. Now they have provided you with 4 predefined rules. One to just, you can, I call it ad hoc moving emails out of your inbox, or move messages from the inbox folder and any future messages. Always keep the latest message and move the rest to from the inbox, and then always move message older than 10 days. Now, for me, I do use that 10 days. Sometimes that's a little bit too long. I would like the ability to change that to 3 to 7 days. I get why Microsoft do this, because if you're on vacation for 2 weeks, stuff doesn't get moved. But this is one of my favorite features that is not available in Classic. Inbox rules. They have simplified this process. Again, if you are a power user from the Classic, some have been a little frustrated because they only set rules what's hitting your inbox, versus in the classic, you can do what's in your inbox and sent. Anytime a rule arrive in your inbox, it will perform that action. I forgot to mention with the sweep command only runs once per day. So you come in, it will run that rule for you, sits there, and the next day it will run again. But when you create an actual inbox rule, it happens anytime that email hits your mailbox. Block safe senders. So, you can easily still tag. This is, I always like to share this because some people still don't use this. But if you get emails from people that you just don't want them to hit your inbox, go ahead and block them. A lot of times we have to subscribe to, when we subscribe to a newsletter or we want to download some information, we have to give them our email address. We don't really want them to have it all the time. You can block that user. You can also identify, anytime I get anything from Smart Consulting, they are a safe sender, and I can identify that. Now, report phishing. This is really for unsafe messages. Let's say somebody's asking for your bank account, or they're asking for, some personal information. These are emails you want to report to Microsoft. Now, I find sometimes we um, subscribe to these newsletters and we don't want them anymore, and then we want to mark them as phishing. You really shouldn't do that because you actually had signed up with them. Be careful with blocking domains that says at gmail.com, AOL, or Yahoo, because you may end up blocking some people that you didn't mean to do, but they have made it very easy for you to do that. Okay, so let's talk about respond. And what are some of the features that you can use? I love the way you can easily switch between accounts. They have assigned multiple accounts for some of the features in the settings, which is making it so much easier if you manage multiple mailboxes. I think I have like 7 of them right now, and it's steady growing. Enable suggested replies in text predictions. Again, this is a preference. Some people love it, some people hate it. My template is replacing quick parts. It is not quick parts if you've ever used it, but nevertheless, I'll talk about it. It's available to you. Sharing, they made sharing and permissions so much easier and quick steps. Under follow-up, I'll talk about pin emails to the top, group into conversations, snooze, and then my favorite, the tasks. Again, multiple accounts management. I love the fact that you can easily add accounts right there from your life navigation. You can go into your settings and actually switch between them and manage those different settings. Enable text predictions. Again, you can go and enable that or disable it. What it will do is as you start to type, and it has that AI and it start to know your pattern and how you respond to people, and it will provide suggestions for you for, words and different phrases. So you can enable that so you can respond to people quickly. Talked about my template a little bit. Again, some of the limitations is it's only for text. It says that you can add images, but simply because the size limit is only 32 KBs, and that's very small. But if you want to send a quick email, I think of this best use for people on their mobile phone. If you're actually driving and in your car, you have these quick messages. Honey, I'm on my way home. Do you need me to stop at the store? Something like that versus how we used to use quick parts. Photo sharing. All you have to do with photo sharing is actually right click and you start to get your settings to apply and share. You can share your mailbox as well as different folders. So again, think about if you are a leader and you have a delegate or you want to share some information out of a particular folder with others so they can manage it. They made that very easy to deal with. Another one of my favorite is quick steps. Quick steps allow you to assign multiple tasks multiple actions to to like a rule. It's set up and looks like a rule when you create it. So if I get an email from Dan and I want to add it to my calendar and have it move to Dan Ray's folder, I can click a shortcut key and it would take care of those actions for me automatically. One of my favorite features. Pin emails to the top. This is new. You do not see this in classic. So there's times where we want to, hey, I'm on my way to lunch, but I want to make sure I pin this to the top so I can deal with it when I come back, that you can do that. It's separate from when you're actually flagging emails. When you flag an email, you have to scroll through your inbox to get to them unless you filter on them. You can filter on flag emails, but you have to scan through your inbox to get to them. Here, if you go ahead and pin it, it's right at the top. Now, my suggestion would be is don't have, more than, 10 items in your pinned because you're going to not see the rest of your email box. Group into conversations. I always have a debate with folks. A lot of people still like to use that find related versus group into conversations. Group into conversations. I don't have to use find related messages by people or by the subject line. It's there. So in your inbox, you have to scroll through and look for all your messages that's relating to this particular subject with group into conversations. Now, group into conversation was actually available in classic email as well. Sorry, in classic new Outlook. But again, I'm surprised how a lot of people do not use it, but everything is grouped together. So when you want to file it away, all you have to do is one drag and they all will go into that folder. Easy way so you can follow up. They do now have the snooze and unsnooze feature. This was kind of driven based on the Google users coming over to Outlook, and they didn't have the snooze feature. It is available. You can just set a date and time when you want to come back, when you want that message to come back into your inbox. So it has its own folder. They will stay there until you specify when you want it to hit your inbox. And then my favorite, the task. I guess I have a lot of favorites. With the task, there's quite a bit of things that you can do. You can actually drag an email to your calendar. You can drag an email to create a task. And when you drag it, it actually keeps the message with it. So now you can actually file it away in the folder, because when you review all this information in the task, that message is already there. I will demonstrate this because this is one of my favorites. People don't realize a lot of the benefits using this. You can also say that originally that you had a task that you were going to focus on it next week, you can change it and just move it to, I want to focus on this my day. The catch is you open up your emails, you go through, you start to drag things to your task and open up your task, right? Have that open so you can have that in front of you regularly. Hey. Retain. So when it comes to retaining your message, you can assign policies and retention labels. I want to show you how you can review your storage as well as talk about archive. So with the assigned retention policy, this is new to folks, that by default, your organization, and check with your organization, by default, 2 years, they will retain messages for 2 years. And so you have the ability, they will be there and then they get moved to the archives. Now, what I like to do is I will create a folder. It's a newsletter. I don't need to keep this for 2 years, that I may keep it for only 6 months. For an example, I am on this MVP community and I get all these emails. That folders already has 1,000 something messages in it. I don't need to keep that for 2 years. So I set a policy saying that I only want it for 6 months. And I think that I'm going to even reduce it to 1 month just because I do have access to get to that information if I want to in other places, but I don't want to use up a lot of my storage. Now, I have identified here you can set retention policies on your custom folders and not some of the system folders, which is the inbox, drafts, and sent items. One of the things that I like to recommend is when you use the retention policy with my folder, when I create my folder, I make sure I specify that I changed it to 6 months. That's just for me visually know that when I come through here, that I know whatever content is in this folder is going to only be retained for 6 months. That's a Teresa thing. That's something that I do. Storage. They have made it very easy for you to look at the storage for different folders. Um, you can see the size. You can actually now right click and say, hey, I want to empty anything that is 3, 6, or 12 months. Now, one of the things that they haven't done, hopefully yet, it's on their backlog. I would like to be able to click on that folder, review it first before I make a decision on what to delete. Some folders like newsletters, I can easily say, yeah, go ahead and get rid of it. Some of them I want to review it before I start to delete. Just so you know, if there's any power users, a lot of requests for PST files to come over to New Outlook, and it should be rolling out in the next month or two. So it is coming. What I want to mention to you about archiving is a little bit different than what we used to in Classic. Before we used to archive it, so we have access to it should we need to access it from a different computer or from a mobile device. The one thing that I want to say is use archive if you don't have a designated folder, right? There's no need to start to create all these folders, for these one or two messages. Use the archive for that. And the other thing you should be aware of is when you archive, it's still taking up some of your storage space. Most applications you get a 1 terabyte. So keep in mind as you start to keep archiving these messages that it's taking up space. So one of the things that I didn't put on here is if you don't need it, just delete it. If you know you have access to get to it from another place, delete that message. That's good for when you get these newsletters. So don't wait. Enable New Outlook today. I've, shared with you reason number one is to align with Microsoft strategy and timeline. Number two, you want to be an early adopter, and we went through several of the benefits by being an early adopter. And then reasons 3 through 5, accelerate after inbox management. While I get set up, are there any questions? What are your thoughts?
Do you have any insight as to how Microsoft determines what goes in the focused versus the other categories?
You can train it. When you first do it, they have not actually explained that. But once you start to move things out of the other and move it into your inbox, the next time around, it'll start to recognize what you consider as important and what is less significant. Good
I guess
question.
I find a lot of stuff that maybe I could move to the quote unquote other folder
Mhm, mhm,
that they've put in my focused inbox.
mhm,
But then there's also a flag on it that says, you don't get email from this individual very often. Here's why that might be significant. And usually it's some vendor that wants to solicit me for something and I'm going to move it
mhm,
to junk mail and be done with it.
mhm, mhm,
But it's not, but that's exactly the kind of thing that I would expect to go to unfocused and it doesn't. So
mhm.
so yeah, I'm just wondering if
I
maybe,
know that I know over time that mine has changed. And just so you know, you just mentioned that one statement that it says you don't get this email from this person. That's something new. So I mean, like I'm just starting to recently see that as well in the last 30 days or so. But it's just again helping you identify, who are the folks that you really communicate with, and from that, if it's going to go to your junk or not, so junk folder or not. But once you start to train it and kind of really do it for, I don't know how long, I'm not going to put a time on it, that you will start to see that things would start to go in between the two folders.
okay, thank you.
Hmm. I'll take one more question before I start to do some of the demos. How much time I have. And like I said, I'm just only going to do a few. Some of them are self-explanatory that I really want to show you the how the to-do app works. Again, notice you see that I have my pinned items here. Again, I try not to do too many because if you do, you won't be able to see all your other stuff. The other thing that I had mentioned is when you flag an item, notice that you have to scroll to find them and versus pinning. That's the difference between the two. If I go to click on my home tab, I'm going to take this email here, this Microsoft Security, under the sweep command. So I know that I have quite a bit in there. I had set this up for you for today. And I want to move all my messages in this inbox, and I'm going to move it to my temp keep. So I know there's about a dozen of them there. They will move them just that quick, right? So again, use the sweep for some of these simple ones. I have some couple folders. Like I don't know why I get all these emails from LinkedIn when people send me a note or whatever. I just create a rule to automatically to move those so I know what my actual items are. Here, I talked about earlier with the retention policy. So when you right click here, assign policy, I can choose how long I want to keep that email, these messages. I don't need to keep them for a very long time. I can change it to 1 week, 1 month, or whatever best for me. And then I rename my folder to align with that retention. Because think about it, if we don't do that, we won't know. And then we'll be going back, think still with the mindset that it's, supposed to be here for 2 years. And we forgot that we changed the retention policy. So keep that in mind. So up at the top is the My Day icon. So I like to actually come in here, and I thought I had some, here we go. I like to come in here and I can easily add this as an event. When I add this as an event, it does not create a task. It will just automatically go onto my calendar, and now I can set focus time when I want to deal with this task, right? So it does not create a task for it because I'm actually reserved time on my calendar. I can also take it and say I want to add it as a task. So when I do that, couple things. Notice that it's telling me, where did it go? Down to the bottom. I'll just choose this one. It has an email attached. So I like to go ahead and take that email and put it in the right folder so it's out of my inbox, because when I create this task, I know that the email is attached with it. If I right click on this, I can mark it as important, complete. I can even edit the title if I want to. If you do block time, you're going to put that on your calendar and it won't create a task, just so you know. But you can set reminders and due dates. You can move it up and down your list. You can actually create task groups. So if you want to move these into the proper task groups, you can do that. I also want to show you right now, if you go into the to-do, it's going to open up in the browser. Just so you know, folks, it is going to open up in the desktop environment at some point. I'm waiting anxiously. It's supposed to be rolled out in January, but I haven't seen it yet. But when you open up your to-do, I can see all my flagged items, right? I can see all my flagged items. I can actually see if anything was assigned to me, if I was from Planner. So, Planner is another way to manage your task. I can also see whatever is planned. Know that a lot of times we flag our emails and we don't put a due date on them, they will show up, but anything that has a date on them will show up under planned. And if I say, hey, I want to work on this today, I can actually move this to my day. There it is. I want to work on it today. Couple things that you can now do with tasks, you can add steps. So think about in Classic, we were able to create a task, but we may have two or three things that we need to do, and we had to create tasks for that. Well, in New Outlook, you can create your different tasks. So it's right here, and you can check them off if you want to. Oops, call Dan. And hit add. What's nice about it is if I've completed step one, did you notice? So it's letting me know that I've completed that step. So on this summary, I can see when it's due, what category was it signed to. Yes, there is an email attached to it. So you have all that information. Here, you can go right back and open up that email. So when you respond to someone, you can do it right from here. Instead of having to go to their folder and find the original email to respond, you can do it right from Outlook.